Okay, hi, hello, welcome back, or welcome, just welcome. This will be my first video back on this channel for like 8 months, give or take. This was supposed to be a gaming channel, but I kinda gave up on it. So I'm now gonna turn this into like a what if channel. This what if is gonna be what if Deku had a healing quirk, where there's really nothing different except Deku has a passive quirk where he heals himself or can heal others, but his life is completely normal to what it would be because it's a passive quirk. No one knows. Like, they still think Deku is quirkless. And yes, I'm calling him Deku in this what if, not Izuku, because, well, that's basically what I'm used to now. Um, Okay, from birth, they knew that he would have a quirk instead of the canon, but basically, same with canon, it never popped or manifested, so he was always perceived as quirkless. Um, Basically, whenever Bakugo would like attack him, I guess you could say, he would heal relatively quickly. Like, say he got scratched while exploring the woods with uh, Bakugo and all of them, that would heal in like 30 minutes. Um, Now he's still getting bullied by Bakugo for being quirkless, like back then. Uh, so yeah, now we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start at the entrance arc when the teacher asks what school they want to go to, and then tosses up all the papers and says, I know you all want to go T-Way, or I know you all want to be Hero. But the first real change will be when the Sludge Villain attacks, where All Might will show up a bit too late and Deku is already passed out slash knocked out, and All Might gets there basically after. Um, and he defeats him. And since Deku was passed out, he checks his pulse and everything to make sure he's still alive. And since he still has some time, and since nothing is really happening, he just calls the police and hands over the sludge villain, and he stays by Deku to make sure or he wakes up and make sure he's not in the comatose state because he's still alive. Um, and then fast forward until Deku wakes up. All Might basically says that he saw All Might defeat the sludge villain, check up on you, then leave to go put the sludge villain behind bars, and that he's just a good Samaritan, making sure Deku is okay. And uh, yeah, so All Might's basically acting like a good Samaritan. Uh, then Deku asks All Might in his honest opinion if he can think or if he thinks Deku could be a hero without a quirk. Long story short, no. But will that stop Deku? No. Back to the sludge villain. He handed it off to the police, so All Might doesn't have an eye on it. The sludge villain finds a weak spot in the bottle and breaks out and starts wreaking havoc. And then he caught Bakugo, as in canon. As I said, I'm not changing much in canon. So Bakugo still gets captured by the sludge villain, and then Deku Hero Flash sees the explosion and goes checking or goes running to it to see if it's another villain so he can get more in his journal. By the way, he still keeps a journal with all heroes and villains he sees and knows of, and you know. Then he looks around, uh, seeing that no one is helping him, and um, Deku being Deku, he uh, he goes up and tries to help them, and then uh, I'm gonna call him Small Might for this one because why not? Then he sees someone who looks like a deflated All Might there, and then he asks him straight up if he's All Might. Like, Deku isn't dumb in this one. He notices these things, like his drooped down hair things, which used to be standing up. He sees that and either think he's an All Might copier or is All Might. So he assumes it's the latter where he is All Might. Um, and since All Might is being called out, he actually tells Deku straight up that yes, he is All Might. And then he takes Deku around the corner and tells him everything, basically. And then Deku, not realizing this, like he's moving on his own like he would when he tries to save Bakugo, he saying how he already has his quirk since he was 5, and now this is when he's like 12. He has the energy stored up from when he's healing, because whenever he's not using his healing quirk, that energy that would be used to heal him is now storing up and up and up, where he basically has an infinite tank of energy flowing or refilling after each time he doesn't use it. And when he does use it, it just increases his base healing factor. So then, not realizing he's doing it, he heals All Might's wound completely, injury completely. And then, I'm gonna say it's to where he can fight for, because All Might doesn't actually know he's been completely healed. But Deku says, in return for healing you to where you can fight for 5 to 10 more minutes while you save Bakugo. And he heals All Might the whole way, like to where he's like not even injured anymore. And yeah, then one second. And then once he does, he saves Bakugo and tries to find Deku. But Deku's already left because he feels like his job has been completed. Like, he was only there because he needed to heal All Might. And once All Might was healed, he knew that he basically wasn't needed anymore, so he left. And now he realizes, and then, as in canon, and basically in the same exact way, All Might gives Deku his quirk. And then we'll just skip to where he's training to actually receive his quirk. Because the 10-month training child, or training period, or whatever you want to call it. Again, the only major difference, or the only differences here will be, instead of being all sore when he trains, his body is healing himself back up, so he doesn't even need to beast sword in the next day, so he can train basically non-stop, and where there's basically no limitations to to how hard slash strong slash whatever he can go. So instead of the 10 months that it takes Deku, it takes him 8.5 months. Like, sure, that's not that big of a difference, but it's a healing quirk, not uh enhancement quirk. And now he gives him his quirk and all that. And then we're gonna now skip to the entrance exam, where he has an extra month and a half to, or we're gonna skip to before the entrance exam. Deku had an extra month and a half to actually figure out one for all. And now he figures out he can use like 3% of it. 3 at most 5 without breaking anything. He does not have full calling yet, but he kind of is closer to where he can punch and then like quickly shift it to his leg to start running. That kind of thing. Um and yeah, it's still the same Deku he has, except he has like an extra month to study for the exam. And now we're gonna skip past the written portion and into the practical, where he sort of knows how to fight, but also really kind of doesn't. For the start of the practical, he doesn't really need Uraraka to save him, so he doesn't go and talk to him, which means Ida doesn't stop him. Then the gates open up, and since Deku actually knows how to use one for all, he's basically the first one through. And at the first uh group of robots there, he runs up, punches one with 8%, and then follows through and kicks in like a circle, in like a roundhouse kick, and destroys 3 robots, and then keeps going like that until the 0 point arrives. And he realizes that Uraraka, he doesn't actually know her name yet, is stuck under some rubble. So Deku starts running, and instead of using both his legs and breaking both of them, I'm gonna have it so where he only uses one leg but still gets the same distance. And then punches them, and he's already healing his leg so he can land. So, even though he doesn't really need Uraraka's help, she still helps him by just like, I don't really want to say slaps, but that's basically what she does to his leg right before he lands, so his landing is softer. And then he goes and helps Uraraka because time's still not up. He unburies her, I guess, would kind of be the correct one, and then starts healing her. And then time is out. He ends up passing with 107 villain points, and I don't remember what the value actually was, but I'm giving him 60 hero points for which will not give him the highest score, or at least I don't think so, but giving him one of the highest scores. And skip to the first day, and we're basically skipping the whole interaction with Bakugo, and because Bakugo still thinks he's quirkless. So we're gonna skip that and skip past until until Aizawa's exam, where everything's the same except for he is uh he can actually use one for all. So he's not last this time, and well, that's up for later. But so we're gonna. Mm, he basically does better on all of the exam, and we're gonna skip to the ball fair because that was this is where the first major change is. Um, where he will throw the ball and they'll go 4,000 meters because he actually has better control of it. But the only difference here is Bakugo's even matter because this time there's a huge change in where Bakugo is versus where Deku is. And he doesn't need to see Recovery Girl. And now we're basically gonna skip through the rest and go straight into the battle trial thing where everything is the exact same except for the Bakugo Deku fight where even the end is just the same. Where instead of being afraid, or Deku is still afraid of Bakugo, but less. Like, he has more courage in him. So when he first encounters Bakugo, he's not like what was I think Bakugo said he was like quivering in his boots or something. And Deku's hero costume is basically the same, except basically just remove the hood. That's really the only change with his hero outfit. Anyway, so yeah. And Deku is actually like speeding around the building until he reaches Bakugo. And the fight basically goes the exact same, except for when Bakugo releases the second giant explosion where Deku can't exactly block it. He just heals up after the fight instead of being needed to be taken away. I believe the US, or we're gonna skip through the rest of that because nothing else changes. I'm just gonna be skipping through places where there's no changes. The USJ. The main difference here is that All Might is here through the first one because he was healed up completely instead of needing to only use 3 hours of time to do hero work. He can actually do like a full day's worth, like a full 10 hours of hero work. The fight between the Nomu and All Might ends quicker, and he doesn't deflate, and Deku is there for first aid for the heroes and students afterwards. For the for the sports festival, we're now gonna say that Deku did come up with full cowling, except he needed a push from All Might, who is still technically training him, where he says, "Why are you switching it from limb to from leg to arm and arm to leg? Why didn't you just let it flow throughout your body?" And then, yeah, Deku discovers full cowling at the sports festival. And he can use up to 10% without breaking anything, so we're now where he is basically after his internship or training thing. So yeah, nothing really changes except Deku is more in the lead throughout the running. Then to the cavalry battle, where I'm saying that the teams stay the same, but the only difference is they can like move quicker. Um, so I'm actually gonna say that they still keep their 1 million or 10 million headband. Um, to the one-on-one. Now I'm actually gonna still say that Shinzo does brainwash him. Even though he is more confident, he still gets brainwashed by Shinzo, which makes Shinzo get more recognized for his quirk. But he still loses quicker because Deku was basically pushing him out of the ring instead of him having to flip him over his shoulder out of the ring. And other than that, the first change doesn't. The first half doesn't change. Um, Todoroki versus Deku. Deku wins, but it's gruesome because yes, because I'm gonna say that with like the finger flicks, he's not able to fully, or with full cowling, he's not able to completely destroy the ice unless he punches it, which means he'll get cut by the protruding ice shards or whatever you want to call them. So he actually does the finger thing again, but after each one he heals them, which is more blood getting thrown out, which is gross. Which is why I'm saying it's more gruesome. And then skip to the next fight where it's now Ida versus Deku, where this is now basically a thing of speed. And where, yeah, this is basically a battle of speed, and this will be where the first major change is, where when Ida used Reciprocal Burst, Deku is actually able to block or dodge the first kick, which is where Ida basically starts to lose, because before that they were at a tie. So because after the first kick, Ida used way too much speed up and way too much energy up, and now he can't keep up with Deku any longer, which gives Deku the advantage over Ida. And because of that reciprocal burst, that failed reciprocal burst, Ida lost. Bakugo versus Deku. Again, basically another battle of stamina, where Bakugo keeps blowing up, or where Bakugo keeps trying to explode Deku, but Deku keeps like dodging it, and Deku trying to counterattack Bakugo, but Bakugo blowing out of the way, and it's basically repeating until Bakugo uses his, and I'm going to totally butcher this, howitzer impact, where instead of him actually winning with that move, Deku puts like 20% in his legs, jumps up, which won't break his legs, but it will like sprain them. And where Deku will heal one leg, and then start spinning, then he'll start trying to kick, go down or fall as fast as possible, and then kick Bakugo like in the back of his neck and knocking him out cold, and which will lead to the rankings being Deku, Bakugo, and then Ida, and whoever else. Or actually, wait, Ida left, so it'd be Tokoyami. Hero Killer. Now I'm still gonna have Deku go with Gran Torino, but the only change here is that instead of Deku practicing to get better with, or instead of getting full calling in this arc, he's training to get better with it. And he has, I'm gonna say, 15% of usage at this one, or where he fights the hero killer. I'm gonna say it's basically gonna be the same exact thing, but um, Deku. I'm actually gonna say Deku wasn't paralyzed in this one because, let's face it, even when he was paralyzed, that didn't really help Stain because, in my eyes, that basically did nothing. We're gonna switch to or we're gonna skip past that because the one Endeavor got the credit and all that. We're now gonna skip forward to the final exam arc, where there is no change, but Deku and Bakugo, or their fight is, when they fight All Might, they basically go with the same exact plan, except they argue more and more about it. Like where Deku just gave up after a while, he actually doesn't keep, or he actually keeps going for like another 10 minutes with this. Or he could have, except All Might showed up about another minute or two into the fight, or into the argument. So they just fought, and then and Deku eventually ran through the gate. And now we're gonna skip forward into, actually we're gonna say with the final exam. Nothing else changes there, so everyone who passed, and everyone who failed, failed. Now we're skipping to the forest training arc. Where there's no change except when they're trying to rescue Bakugo, because Deku's arms aren't completely shattered in this one, where he actually heals him up before he gets Koda, I think was his name, back with Eraserhead. And after Bakugo is taken and they are mad about it, then we turn to, I don't know what you want to call it, like base camp or whatever. He heals the students who have been injured. To the hideout, or yeah, I'm just gonna call it the hideout. There was really no change except to Deku can use 20% of full cowling instead of, it was some odd percent. But yeah, I'm gonna say he can use up to 20% of full cowling. All Might still had to retire after All for One was defeated, just because he used up all of what spark was still left, because he still handed over All for, or One for All. That the spark is gone. Like, he can still take his buff form, but he won't have as much power as he has. Like, he can throw a punch, but it would just be a normal punch. It wouldn't be his enhancement punch, I guess you could call it. Provisional exam. I'm saying Deku is up to 30% now because he did a lot more training after All Might had to retire. Where there's no major difference except Todoroki and the wind guy, I don't know what you would call it, both passed because, well, for one, Todoroki is much calmer in this AU, so he and the wind guy, I'm just gonna call him that, don't fight through the fight, so where they can actually take on Gang Orca, but they still lose, but it's able to buy the other heroes enough time to evacuate everyone. So they still pass even though they failed at their job. Now, the fight against Mirio. The only major change here is that Todoroki actually takes the challenge. Because the only reason he didn't fight in the first one, or in the original, was because he didn't have his license in it. So in this one, he actually does fight Mirio. So basically, everything is the exact same. There's no changes except Todoroki fights. Though Deku is the only one fighting at the end because he can actually keep up with uh, Mirio. But he still loses because Mirio can go under and basically punch Deku on all sides. Overhaul. There's basically again no major changes except Serenada doesn't die and Mirio can fight for a longer time. So Mirio doesn't just, I don't know what you'd want to call it, doesn't just like give out after being like cut up and all that. And Serenada doesn't die because Deku's right there able to heal him, so he gets the aid he needs before he loses too much blood and dies. And Mirio is able to get healed basically right as he gets injured each time. Time for the remedial course. I'm gonna skip it because the only major change here is that Todoroki and not or the one guy isn't there. But everyone still passes because I'm not gonna change that. The school festival. The fight against Gentle Criminal or Criminal Gentle, whatever his name is. Deku can fight for longer, and Deku actually is able to capture him, I guess, but Gentle Criminal being Kim, he still gets out and they still escape, but they don't get into the sports festival, is what I'm just gonna say. And that's as far as I'm up to, so that's where I'm gonna stop.